Good afternoon everyone and welcome to Hafren Forest. It is a beautifully still Sunday afternoon. I was a little bit concerned when I arrived because the car park was heaving, but as soon as I've come away from the kind of main paths, then it's really quietened down and it's absolutely beautiful. Not a breath of wind, nothing but the sound of the birds singing in the trees and the water running alongside me. What a beautiful way to spend a few hours with my camera. So we're going to go for a bit of a walk and see if we can find some landscape images. So anyone who has Instagram or Facebook will have probably come across this place before. It's become incredibly popular on social media, and for good reason. It's absolutely beautiful, and the draw for this place, I think, is that it's really accessible. There's a boardwalk that runs alongside the river for quite a while, and it's a really nice way to experience nature with the family. You know, it's easy for kids, it's easy for people with disabilities who are in wheelchairs, and I'm trying to just come away from those main paths a little bit. Obviously part of the walk will take me on those boardwalks, and if an image shows itself then I'll be sure to grab it as I pass. I put my wellies on today because I knew that I'd be climbing down into the water at some point. Didn't quite expect to be going straight down there for my first image, but there we go. I always favour the viewpoint of being kind of central within the water. It often makes for quite a nice composition when you've got the water kind of leading in from the bottom corners of the image, and the only way you're going to get the water on both sides of you is either by being on a bridge or by being in the water. So in this case that's the latter. So I'll climb down there and see if we can line it up for the first image of the day. So I've just brought you down onto the riverbed with me, kind of balanced the camera precariously on a rock. I'm sure it'll be fine. But I wanted you to kind of see the perspective that I'm seeing right now, just using these rocks that are protruding up from the riverbed as my foreground interest, just leading the eye nicely up and through with the flow of the water towards the forest in the background. So I'm going to get quite a nice low angle on this. I really want the foreground interest to be the prominent feature in this shot. It might pay me to throw a polarizer on, but I think I'm probably not going to bother. I quite like the way the light is reflecting off the water. Just adds a bit of a shine to the image, I think. And yeah, so just working handheld then. I'll be shooting this at about f4. With the focus then being on the foreground, because I don't mind if the focus kind of falls off a little bit towards the back end of the image. Just helps to simplify things a little bit and keep that kind of soft look that I'm trying to achieve. Not a lot of interest in the sky. It's creating this nice soft light just hitting the forest floor, so I really want to show that through the image if I can. So I'm up on the boardwalk now, and it's really pretty. The river's absolutely beautiful. I think I just struggle a little bit when it's very man-made, if you know what I mean, which is great because it means that people can access these beautiful places, people who are differently abled and use wheelchairs, or people who have got young children, have buggies, that kind of thing. But when it comes to photography, for me at least, I struggle because it feels a little bit manufactured, and I'm here to capture the kind of nature. So I think mainly I'll be focusing on the images that can be found off the beaten path, which is my usual approach. And not only that, I don't really like filming in public places, so I get distracted, and it not only distracts me from making these videos, but distracts me from concentrating on my photography. So I like to be alone with my thoughts when I'm making images. So yeah, we'll kind of power through this bit, catch any images that catch my eye kind of thing, and yeah, we'll go a little bit further and see if we can find something a little bit more off the beaten path. Right, I'm getting a few funny looks from being down in the water. It's incredibly slippy as I make my way into the middle of this river, but it's actually a really nice shot looking up the water. And yeah, I thought it was worth the effort, so we'll see how it looks. And I think what I'll probably do is drop my shutter speed down to about a 50th of a second and just see if we can get a little bit of movement in the water there. Yeah, quite nice that. Right, see if I can get out of here without slipping over. So I was just walking down the path and I spotted a little scene in front of me, and immediately I thought, I wish I had a telephoto lens, maybe a 70 to 200, but I haven't got one. It's kind of worked out in my favour because there's a waterfall a bit further up. That's the immediate subject, but actually by having a wider field of view, I'm able to incorporate much more of the scene. Once I had a look through the back of the viewfinder, I realised that it's such a nice image, like incorporating the surrounding trees and the hills in the background. And actually, the obvious shot was the 70 to 200 shot, but yeah, just having that different perspective, actually, I think I prefer it. Obviously, I can't see what it would have looked like with a 200mm lens, but I think I prefer it. Just showing more of the scenery, more of the surrounding area, telling more of that story, if that makes sense. So I'm just starting to climb up and away from the water a bit now. It's beautiful and quiet. There's hardly anyone around, which is lovely. It was really busy down by the boardwalk, but now that I've come up and away, as is so often the case, it's really thinned out and there's no one around. And it's lovely. It's nice to just spend a bit of time on my own. You know, I'm a busy dad. I appreciate every moment of silence I can find. So just enjoying this path at the moment, not really putting any pressure on myself to find any images. Obviously, if anything jumps out in front of me, I've got my camera to hand. And again, that is the beauty of these bag clips. Shots that you would normally just walk straight past and you won't bother getting your camera out. Having it here, ready to go, really helps with just catching those images. That sometimes they're the best images, you know. The ones that you really in the moment didn't think were worth taking can turn out to be some of the best images I've taken anyway. I don't want to use the word underwhelming because I don't think that's correct, but I made my way up to the waterfall, and in terms of images at least, there's not a lot to be done there. I did carry on up a little bit further, perhaps another 10 minutes up. There's a path that carries on up, another trail that carries on up into the hills, and I've got a couple of shots from up there and I'll put them on the screen for you now so you can see them. But ultimately I decided to turn around and start heading back down. So now I'm heading back down on the route that I came up on, and I'll see if I can spot anything on the way back down. But if I don't get any more images from here on out, then I'll still go home a happy photographer. It's been a beautiful day out, and actually if I didn't get any images, it's just nice to be out and about in nature. I say it all the time, but I really value this time. I love going for a good old walk, and if you compare that with a hobby, And even better, if you can get a couple of images to come home with, then yeah, then it's been a really good day. And I think I've achieved that today. So I've had a really nice day out. So I'm going to start making my way back to the car park and catch anything that I see with the camera. But ultimately, I just want to enjoy the rest of the day out now. It's absolutely beautiful. It's completely still, not a breath of wind. And these views are really, really special. You can see how hazy it is. And that's why I chose to come to the forest today, because actually when you've got grand vistas and big views and it's a little bit hazy, it can really mess with the contrast of your images, you know. So coming somewhere a little bit more intimate, down in the woods, and especially near the water, these conditions really lend themselves to waterfalls and forest paths, you know. So that's exactly what I've done, and hopefully it's paid off. Something that's been on my mind that I wanted to ask you guys about was, you see it all the time on landscape photography, YouTube videos, where we'll post the images and we'll post the settings underneath as well. We'll type out the settings of the shot. And I want to know how useful that is to you guys, because I've posted videos where I've included the settings, and I've also posted videos where I've left them out. And I'm on the fence really, because ultimately I think it's more about the moment, it's more about the composition and what you see, rather than focusing on the settings all the time, you know. And I try and make a habit of, when I'm making creative choices, when I'm deciding on my aperture, or if I'm choosing a shutter speed deliberately, then I'll try and communicate that to you while I'm out on the field. And so I think sometimes we get a bit too hung up about what shutter speed was that, what ISO did you shoot that at, and actually, like, a lot of the time it doesn't matter, as long as it's well exposed. Or exposed to your taste, or you know, the creative choice that you're going for, then I don't think there's a lot of value in seeing the numbers underneath the image. And like I say, I try and communicate it out on the field when I really do feel it's an integral part of the image. But I'd love to know your thoughts. So, you know, let me know in the comments what you think. If you want to see the data, I can give you the data, but I just don't think it's necessarily that important, you know. I'm just coming back in towards the boardwalk, which largely is the busiest part of this place. There's no one here. Sun goes down in like an hour, I think, and there's absolutely nobody here. When I walked up earlier, it was heaving with people. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that's a lesson to us all. If you want to come and get these places to yourself, early morning or right before sunset. I know obviously the light is starting to fade now, but just to say, if you want to get these places to yourself, you know, this boardwalk actually could provide some really nice compositions, and you just never get them. You'd never get them in the middle of the day with all the people coming up and down. But right now, I've got the place to myself. So maybe for my final image of the day, I'll use this boardwalk and I'll try and put something together. So despite what I was just saying, I have found a really nice composition using the boardwalk. And there are people on it, which is absolutely fine. We're all entitled to be here. But yeah, I'm going to try and get the shot anyway. I might have to use a little bit of AI wizardry to get rid of the people, but the composition is too good to pass up. Looking on the back of the camera, if I shoot it at about 30th of a second, which is quite doable handheld, then I don't really need to use a tripod. I can keep my ISO down at about 500, which is absolutely fine. And yeah, basically just looking off up the path. I've got this really nice little zigzag patch and then just leading through on up the boardwalk. It looks quite nice on the back of the camera, so I'm going to see if it lines up for a shot. And yeah, that will be the final shot of the day.